Hello everybody, so here we are with the next stage of our bellicle, which is part of our Great Demon project, and all I've done so far is I've tidied up the horns and spikes and things like that with going back to some grey so that I can get in with some more contrast, and just here at the top I've put a bit more pterodon turquoise just on the bit I'd missed between his horns there. So that's what I've done so far. So I'm going to go on to what I'm going to put on the horns is I did sort of play around with maybe put in some horn type colour on there, but I'm actually going to do something in the same palette. I think that will stand out too much. So I'm going to use some of this Dark Angels green first of all, and then dry brush that up with a little bit of desaturated greens to make it blend in with what we've done so far, because we're really happy with it. It's also been very well received when I put it online. So that's where we are with Bellicor at the moment. We'll be getting on with that shortly, but there's more things happening. So we've got the start of a Great Unclean one that I was sitting in front of the Olympics and building the other day. So decision time, because this is the generic bit done, decision time, and I think what I'm going to go with is Rotigus, because I quite like the idea of Rotigus waddling. I think Rotigus looks really cool, and waddling behind everybody else and throwing out lots of D3 mortal wounds on people's core units in their army. Sounds good to me. So that's what we're going to do there. I also have, where have I put it? Made another purchase, Bloodthirster. So that is going to be, I think, the one with the big axe. I've had a little look at the war scrolls and things, but I think the one with the big axe looks, the Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage, I think is the one to go for, just because he's got a really big axe and it looks great. So we're going to go for that one. So no ideas what level I'm going to do them at, and the dog is joining in with everything as well. So now you're gonna watch me putting some more paint onto Bellicor. Bye bye. So here we are with my first green dry brush over, and I think that blends in quite well, but different enough to work quite well, and it just needs a final highlight now, which hopefully will do the job and finish off those horns, and then I can start thinking about what colour I'm going to do his tabard there. I'm thinking about something like a deep orange, but whether that will actually work, I don't want to brighten it up too much. I don't know, I haven't decided. Maybe not. Maybe the whole thing needs to be a similar sort of shade, and then I can use the sword to sort of change the emphasis a little bit. Bright sword with shadows coming off it, something like that. Okay, so now I'm going to do the next one using scaly hide, and that is another army painter, which I really like for the dry brushing. The army painter stuff works really well. So let's see how that goes on. Okay, so there we go, and I just feel like the final highlight you do just really makes it pop. If you just take your time with the dry brushing and just work up through the layers, a bit like you would with layer painting, so much faster, but you get, with this sort of model, this sort of monster model, you get such a good result. So I've used that scaly hide there, and then just at the end I added a tiny bit of white and just added it to some of the bits that would catch the light, and that really sort of makes those horns stand out a bit now. I'm really sort of pleased with that. Let's turn the big light off so maybe see it in a bit more natural light, and then I've just picked out some of the top parts of the horns, and it looks like I've done some blend. I mean, if you get really close you'll see that it's not, but it's, you know, you'd spend a long time trying to blend that and getting a result quite as good as that on those horns and everything else. So just taking your time, building up, just painting a little bit less each time. It's amazing what results you can get. And that green, actually I'm really pleased I didn't go with the sort of bone colours. I went with that instead, because that's really popping now. I need to do the little bit on the top of his head that I've just got as the turquoise now, just to highlight that up. But yeah, he's looking good. So I need to move on to the armour and to his tabard now. Need to work out what I'm going to do with them first. But yeah, really pleased with that. So there he is, in all his glory. Cracking model. Bye bye. Okay, so a bit of an update on where we are with Bellacore. And I've done a bit of, we'll just little bit straight, that's better. I've done a bit of base coating, which I haven't done on camera, it's not terribly exciting, of his armour. So using this fantastic colour gunmetal blue, which is a Vallejo model colour, absolutely beautiful colour, which blends in really nicely with his skin, etc. And then put a Nuln Oil, just very thin, wash over the top of it, and you can see possibly that it's still wet, that I've used some this is scale 75 Hasta purple on his cloak there. I'm going to go for a sort of quite deep red on there, keep the darkish colours but try and get a bit of pop in it. Still don't know what I'm going to do on his sword, but I've done the sort of pommel, would that be the right thing to say, of his sword, with the same as his little bits of armour, and a few bits of metal on his wings that I've done there as well. So just maybe see those on the back of the wings a little bit. And I keep finding more bits and bobs which I then have to base coat again. So that's my plan. What I'm going to do is mix a little bit of that gunmetal blue now with some silver, and then just dry brush it onto the armour and see how that goes, and try and pick out some of the detail. So that's my next thing. Oh, the other thing that I've done, just bear with me. Is I was running a tournament all weekend, but one thing I have done is done some building. So we now have a Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage, and we also have Rotigus. So these are the next things that are going to be on the painting pile, but onto a bit of armour. Well, as you can see, there's been some progress made on Bellicor. I've not been able to film it necessarily, but the sort of bits that have happened, you can see he's on his base now, and I've gone for quite a simple desert base which fits into the rest of my army in terms of how that's going to look, but it is a nice contrast with the rest of the model. I've done his tabard here, and just same armour colour for his chainmail with some skulls, etc., which blend into the base. The base was done with some what was it, skeleton bone from Army Painter, and then I've put Seraphim Sepia onto that, but on the base here down at the bottom where the sand is, that was actually, I used Reichland Flesh Shade on there to just differentiate it a little bit, and then highlighted up with some sand colours. So Sahara Yellow from scale 75, and then up to white sands, and sort of just gradually adding more white sands in to then give it a bit of a highlight. So that's come out quite nicely. So he's pretty much done, apart from, as you can see, I still haven't made decisions on the sword, so that's coming up. But in the meantime, I have also used the beautiful red primer from Halfords to prime the Bloodthirster, and then I've just given him a wash with some Carroburg Crimson over the top of that. So then we'll start, it comes up quite orange on the camera, but he I'll then start highlighting up, and he's very red, not orange, but I'll start highlighting up and using the same sort of techniques that I used with Bellicore with dry brushing for speed's sake. And the other thing we've got is the big girl or boy Rotigus. So I'm going to have to do something with the camera with these guys because they're so big they don't really fit in the camera. So Rotigus looking great there. So what I'm going to do with Rotigus is do a spray from underneath with some black, spray from the top with some white, and just create a zenithal highlight, which will help me then when I do my first washes. That will help to bring the whole thing out. Use some contrast paints and then be able to use the grey. There's so much beautiful texture on here that I'll be able to then use the dry brushing really well. So that's where we are. I've also been building some blood letters, so that's where we are with the project at the moment. So I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.